Almost everyone you know is dead. The bell tolls outside, and you hear the cries imploring the few healthy people left to bring their dead outside. Will this plague ever end, or will it end you instead? Heyo, and welcome to another episode of The Darchives. I'm Jamie talking to Leo.
And I'm Leo listening to Jamie.
And this week, we are going to be discussing the bubonic plague with some background and when it came to the United States.
Very cool. I know a little bit about the plague over in Europe, but I had never heard about it coming over here.
I honestly hadn't either, and I was thinking of just doing the episode on, the Black Death, the one that we all know about. But when I saw that it made it to America, I had never heard about that. So I decided that was going to be the episode this week.
All right, yeah. And before we get started, I just wanted to announce also that we have a website, an official website up and running.
Woo!
So you can visit that over at darchivespodcast.com. We have a store, just wrote the first blog for the last episode, Roanoke, and hopefully we have many more to come. But yeah, that's up and running. It's officially going. If you want to cop yourself a sweatshirt, t-shirt, or hat, we have a store.
Yay!
And with that out of the way, where are we getting started on this Black Death in America?
We are starting thousands of years ago. We are going back to the first documented plague outbreak. Yersinia pestis has been haunting the world for millennia. The bubonic disease, or the bubonic plague, has been around for as long as humankind, but the first documented pandemic was the Plague of Justinian, which started around 541 CE. It is believed to have begun in Lower Egypt, presumably from the port of Pelusium, and from there it spread all around the Mediterranean. In 542, it appeared in Constantinople, and there it really took hold.
Luckily, our boy Formosus didn't have to deal with that.
No, he did not. And this is not the first time that Constantinople has made a little appearance here on our show.
No, it's been quite a few times it's been on the show.
Mm-hmm. Emperor Justinian himself caught the disease, but he did recover. The same cannot be said for about half of the city's population, though. Mass graves were dug, and when those overflowed, the dead were stuffed into towers in the city walls. Quicklime was poured over the bodies to help speed up the decomp process. Other bodies were just loaded into ships that were then sent out into the Sea of Marmara, and there they were burned in the open water. Kind of like a little Viking funeral.
Yeah.
The whole city essentially halted, came to a dead stop. At this time, Constantinople was one of, if not the most important city in the Western world for political, religious, and cultural reasons. Which I think we did touch on in, was it Cadaver Synod or Vlad?
Yeah, I know the political implications were in the Cadaver Synod for sure.
And religious.
Religious also, because we're dealing with popes and all those guys. But yeah, popes, bishops, and all that, and they all met in Constantinople to do the politics and the schmoozing, all that jazz.
Yeah. So all that to say, quite an important city. Food quickly became scarce, and there was essentially a complete breakdown of all law and order. They went into anarchy pretty quickly. At the height of the plague here, it was estimated that as many as 10,000 people were dying a day. Fucking brutal.
Yep.
The plague spread out of the city walls and east to the Caucasus Mountains, where invading Persian armies contracted the deadly disease. Thanks to their invading, it spread throughout Europe, and outbreaks occurred for the next 2 centuries.
That'll teach you to invade.
Yeah, they couldn't have been doing too good. This outbreak was completely done by about 750 CE, though the major outbreaks and the worst of it was done around 590 CE.
Hell yeah. Ripping and roaring.
Yeah.
I didn't know the plague started way back then.
Honestly, I didn't either. It's impossible to accurately say how many people died during this outbreak, but estimates range from anywhere from about 25 to 100 million deaths. This was at the time, and as will be the case later, about a third of the population in Europe. Now, this number is pretty heavily debated, with some historians believing it to be exaggerated, but what is known for sure is that a plague like this would not be seen again in Europe until the 1300s.
I mean, even if it was exaggerated on the high end, but not on the low end, that's still 25 million people.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know how many people were around back in the 500s, but I'm guessing that was a big chunk.
I don't know. I feel like it would be more of the population. Because, yeah, like you said, don't know how many people were necessarily around back then, but I don't know. Now, we are in Europe in the 1300s. Welcome to the Sicilian port of Messina, October 1347. Here, there were 12 ships that had just come in from the Black Sea. People waiting on the docks were greeted by a horrid little surprise, though. Almost all the sailors on board were dead, and those who weren't already dead were pert near. Black boils covered them, oozing pus and blood, and it was extremely obvious that they were all gravely ill. Authorities ordered the, quote, death ships to be sent out of the harbor, but it was too late. Europe was about to experience the Black Death again.
I'm sure as soon as those ships rolled up to port and docked, it was just rats pouring off of those ships. Just plague-infested rats.
Ugh,
rolling.
I know. Which, actually, beautiful start to my next thing. Let's talk about the bubonic disease and why it is so unbelievably deadly. Or why it was so unbelievably deadly. Now, the bubonic plague is caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis. This little bacteria is carried around by fleas. The most common cause for the spread is when a flea bites into a rodent, and as you just said, specifically rats, and it then vomits into the rat's body. The disease is transferred to the rat, and in most, high populous cities, especially back in the times we've discussed so far, rats were extremely common. Fleas can also transmit this disease directly to humans through their bites, but any contact with infected animal tissue, fluid, scratches, or bites can transmit it. The bacteria then spreads to the lymphatic system, where it absolutely thrives and multiplies in the lymph nodes. This causes buboes, which are large swelling points that are extremely painful to the touch, and they can break open and ooze.
They nasty.
The most commonly affected areas are the armpits, neck, and groin. Which, that's all your movement.
Yeah, literally everywhere that your body rubs up against another part of your body.
Yeah, incredibly painful. Now, the plague comes in 3 separate forms. The regular bubonic, the septicemic, and the pneumonic. Bubonic affects the lymphatic system, septicemic affects your bloodstream, and pneumonic affects your lungs. Septicemic destroys the tissues in your body, which essentially just leads to organ failure, and pneumonic essentially causes severe pneumonia, which even today, pneumonia can still kill you.
Are the buboes only part of the bubonic plague, or is it also part of pneumonic, where you'll have those pustules inside your lungs?
From what I read, it seemed like pneumonic was, essentially just a very, very severe case of pneumonia. I didn't read anything that said that it caused that.
You mind if I look it up real quick?
Go for it.
The pneumonic plague does not have them, for sure. The big tell of the bubonic plague is that the lymph nodes swell up and get those buboes on them. But like you said, the pneumonic is very much just all respiratory. It's pneumonia based. It's super pneumonia.
Cool. Well, thank you for fact checking that in the moment. The pneumonic strain, it actually had 100% fatality rate. Can you fucking believe that. Granted, the septicemic and the pneumonic were rare, but can you imagine being told, like, nope, you're guaranteed to die. Absolutely nothing can be done. You're toast.
Yeah, Greg gets a bad cough and the doctor's like, yeah, I don't even need to see him. He's good.
No, he's done.
Yep. He's coughing? He's done.
Last rites, can we get the priest in here, please?
You better hope that's cold, buddy, because if it's not, you're done.
Oh my god, back in the 1300s? You better hope you got something stuck in your throat. Even the cold will get you.
Yeah.
Okay. Along with the lovely lumps from bubonic come fever, fatigue, chills, headache and body ache, weakness, and nausea. Septicemic caused abdominal pain and bleeding from the nose and mouth or just under your skin. And pneumatic causes shortness of breath, chest pain, and coughing accompanied by bloody or watery mucus. Not one of those sounds fucking fun. Today, in 2026, let alone in fucking 1347.
Yeah,
Whoa.
they all sound pretty bad.
Oh, goodness. Now, back in Europe, the people of Sicily were seeing the bubonic effects in the sailors arriving at port. This particular outbreak, which was the second outbreak, actually started in China and Inner Asia. The army of Kipchak Khan Janibeg had been completely decimated by the disease. He and his army were attacking the Genoese trading port of Kaffa, which is in Crimea, in 1347 when it really took off. As the men were dropping dead, Janibeg had the... This isn't funny, but it is so fucking crazy. He had the brilliant idea of using trebuchets to launch the diseased bodies into the town. Fuck you.
Just throwing plague victims, catapulting them basically.
Yes.
Just catapulting them into enemy towns.
Yeah, to spread this disease. That is biological warfare like I've never heard before.
Yeah, you're right. It's not funny, but it's
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing to think about.
I'm laughing just from like, what? So yeah, and this was a port city, let me remind you.
If we gotta deal with it out here, you gotta deal with it in there.
So of course, this infected the town, and from there, the ships traveled to Sicily. North Africa, mainland Italy, Spain, and France were hit in 1348. Austria, Hungary, Switzerland, Germany, and the Low Countries were reached in 1349. And England got hit especially hard in 1349. And by 1350, it had reached the Baltics, Northern England, Scotland, and Scandinavia.
That shit was everywhere.
Yeah. Now,
this is our Black Death.
This is the Black Death, yes. Let me run this by you, see if our thoughts are kind of the same here. But when I think of the Black Death, for whatever reason, I only think of England and Italy.
I just think more of like Europe as a whole, but primarily I think England and France.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, but I didn't realize quite how widespread it was. I know that it went through Europe, but for whatever reason, seeing the countries listed out like that, I was like, oh, fuck, it really, really hit everywhere, huh?
Yeah, it was all over the damn place. Yeah, I could see thinking like way back in the day that maybe England would be a little more isolated, being an island, you know? But that sucker was all over the mainland too.
Yeah, but just seeing the countries laid out, it was a bit eye-opening. Now, even before it had reached Europe, there were rumors and stories heard in Europe about a, quote, great pestilence killing in the East. In the early 1340s, it had ravaged China, India, Persia, Syria, and Egypt. One doctor from the time is quoted as saying, quote, instantaneous death occurs when the aerial spirit escaping from the eyes of the sick man strikes the healthy person standing near and looking at the sick. End quote.
Yeah, so they're literally thinking this spirit is jumping from person to person, and once it gets a hold of you, you're done.
Insta-kill.
Yeah, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You got no hope.
Which for a lot of people, they didn't.
I wonder if they actually thought that was the science behind it. Like, if they were walking around trying to help these people, like, not looking them in the eye because they might have a spirit jump into them.
I mean, very well could be. Well, here's something. As is the case for most disasters during this time period, they thought it was the wrath of God, right?
He always be doing this shit.
He is a...
Or she.
Thank you.
I like to subscribe to the Alanis Morissette version of God from Dogma.
She's always causing problems. She's always causing disasters. But as a result of this thinking, thousands of Jewish people were massacred between 1348 and 1349 because the thinking was that God wanted the people to suffer because of heretics or non-believers of the Christian faith.
Any excuse to kill the people who don't believe in the same thing you do, huh?
Yeah, fuck you. Fuck you for real. And it's...
People weaponizing religion for all of time is just fucking sick.
How many people have been killed in the name of God?
More than any king that's ever existed.
Yeah. So, I mean, did they maybe believe that spirits were just jumping from sick to healthy? Yeah, fucking probably. Another odd result of this was the flagellants.
Flatulence?
No, not the farters.
Okay, the flagellants, the flagellating.
Yes.
They were getting hit.
Yes, exactly. These people would walk and travel from town to town, conducting public displays of penance and punishment. They did this by beating themselves and each other with leather straps that had pieces of metal embedded in them.
Owie.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to talk shit about any faith, but I will say that the things people do for their gods can sometimes be a little fucking wacko, huh?
Yeah. It reminds me of the scene in Vikings where they have like the monk or whatever he is. He's captured and they're going to give him an opportunity to prove that his god is real by holding on to a piping hot, like a sword or something, and walking like a distance. And you see like in his head, like it all panning out perfectly, and it goes into his hands and he isn't burned, and he walks like 15 paces and drops it, and there's not a scar in his hand. And then it flashes to reality where the sword gets placed in his hand. He's just like, ah! Like just burning and walking and dropping it, and his hands are all fucked.
Oh.
Like, they hear all these myths and like people actually believe it. I believe religion is a blueprint on how to live a good life, right? Is the primary reason for it. And then because man is involved with it, they manipulate it to create whatever agenda they need to do.
I'm going to steer this back to the story. Now, as a result of this plague, wages were actually increased around Europe. So yay. Death and just kind of morbidity as a whole made its way into art of the time. So we get a lot of skeletons and, drawings of death is a lot more common from this time period. And again, the population of Europe decreased by about 1/3. It's estimated that around 25 million people died again. The population of Western Europe didn't reach its pre-plague levels again until the beginning of the 16th century.
Yeah, got its ass kicked.
Yeah, Europe got fucked.
Yeah, I do love how art is a reflection of the times and society. You're surrounded by death and horror and probably fear and depression from losing loved ones, and there's not anyone around that doesn't know somebody who's died from this with the numbers that were going on. So the art reflects the time.
Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, the art that did come out of this time, it's really cool. I really, really like the artwork of this time. Like, just the skeletons and the overall morbid air to it. From my lens, my 2026 not watching everybody that I know die, I find it to be very beautiful.
I've always been a fan of the skeletons and plague doctors and all that jazz is just really cool to me.
Yeah, it's just so unique, I think is why I like it so much. You don't see stuff like that again, really, Something that I think I can speak on for most of us Americans, something that we are not taught is that the plague actually made its way to the United States.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
In 1899, Hawaii, which was still 60 years from legally becoming a state in America, was hit by the plague. Chinese immigrants specifically were dying in Honolulu. This plague had actually started in 1855 in China, and out there killed around 15 million people, mainly people in India.
Well, India's got a huge portion of the world's population anyway.
Yeah, so they had the disease had a lot to work with there. As it was in the Black Death of the 1300s, this disease was carried in on ships that eventually ended up in Hawaii. The local health board decided to quarantine all the residents of the local Chinatown, which was about 10,000 people. Anti-Chinese sentiment was extremely high at this point, and it was believed that just all Asians were the carriers of this plague, specifically the Chinese.
Pretty typical.
Yeah.
Anytime you can blame somebody, might as well just cast a wide net and go racist, I guess.
Well, I mean, look at COVID. It is so easy to just pick a demographic and blame them for the whole thing, you know? Just because it originated there doesn't mean that they're the fucking villains. No,
well, those things, like after 9/11, every Muslim everywhere was a problem.
Japanese internment camps in America during World War II.
Oh yeah, and everybody was getting locked up. There was literally people walking around with signs like "I'm Korean," "I'm Chinese," "I'm Vietnamese," because they didn't want to get locked up, and they were still talking just as much shit about the Japanese too back in the day. The no limits on racism throughout history. I'm going down a rabbit hole of like black cowboys back in the day, and it was just wild to me like how people who had just stopped becoming slaves were instantly turning around self-righteous free men and then talking shit just like the white men did to black men. These black men were talking with the white men about the Mexican men. And it's all like, racism knows no bounds. It's just so wild throughout history to see that. Sorry, that's just a little thing that like boggles my mind a little bit.
Throughout humanity, they need somebody to hate and somebody to blame. In the 1300s, it was the Jews. In the 1890s, it's the Chinese. And you know what? We're gonna touch on racism against Hispanics. So it's pick a victim, blame them for everything that's wrong. In this case, the Chinese people, right? So armed guards stood outside of the community, the Chinatown community, to make sure that no one could come in or out. But when a white teenager died of the disease outside of the quarantined area, they came up with a horrible new plan.
Which was?
They decided that fire was the only way to rid the island of the disease.
I mean, burning the bodies of the deceased is probably not a bad idea, so that way it's not festering, but how else are they going to do it?
What about burning apartment complexes? What about burning stores?
Oh, let's just burn living people, because fuck it.
Well, an entire apartment complex that held 85 Chinese, Japanese, and Hawaiian residents was burned to the ground. They did evacuate the residents, which is nice, I guess. But that is still people's homes. Now, this building burning was trying to replicate the 1666 Great London Fire that was believed to have stopped a plague outbreak.
Is this the same London fire that our prophet from...
Oh my god, from the Bedlam Hospital?
Yeah, from Bedlam, the guy who they thought was a prophet because he foresaw this fire happening?
Yeah, this is the exact same fire, yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Throwback to Bedlam.
Yeah, throwback to Bedlam. So...
It all intertwines, guys. All history intertwines with each other. Like... It's just crazy how many lines you can draw through so much different history, right?
I know. And I do try and bounce around all throughout time, but yeah, we do intersect a lot, don't we?
Yeah.
Now, this burning of the buildings replicated the Great Fire a little too accurately, and due to the numerous fires that officials kept starting, a stray ember landed on a wooden church and started a brutal 18-day fire.
Hey, you can't have a town get infected with the plague if there's no town to be infected.
Well, yeah, they kind of did, because it destroyed 60 acres of Chinatown and some surrounding neighborhoods, which left around 4,000 to 6,000 people homeless. Despite this, they continued setting controlled fires to buildings in the area, and when the plague continued to spread, they eventually set up detention camps to put the Chinese people in.
Now we're sick, homeless, and in jail. What the fuck, bro?
It's really mean. By the end of March 1900, 71 cases had been diagnosed and 61 people had died. Now, in San Francisco, California, a Japanese ship called the SS Nippon Maru arrived in the San Francisco Bay in June of 1899.
Nippon is actually the Japanese word for Japan.
The more you know. Now, aboard this ship, 2 sailors had died of the plague, and 2 more people found stowing away were also dead from, presumably, the plague. It isn't completely possible to definitively identify which ship brought the plague over there, but it is confirmed that a 41-year-old Chinese-American laborer named Chick Jin was found dead of the plague. He is the first mainland death from the plague. On March 6th of 1900, he was found in the basement of the Globe Theater, which was at the time just a rundown, squalid boarding house for the people in Chinatown. The very next day, Chinatown in San Francisco was quarantined. 12 blocks with about 25,000 people living there were no longer allowed to leave. Bodies soon were being found abandoned in alleyways or in boarding houses. Despite the obvious fact that the plague had reached the mainland, it turned into a political shit show. The governor of California at the time created news blackouts about the death, and even the president at the time got involved, saying he wanted the one doctor who was telling the truth about this to stand down.
Better quit telling everybody the truth. I don't like that.
What
president was that?
William McKinley.
McKinley, you saucy son of a bitch.
You know William McKinley is one of 3 presidents who was assassinated?
I did not know that.
He's the forgotten assassination. We all know JFK and Abe Lincoln, but nobody remembers McKinley.
Probably because he's a dick telling doctors not to talk the truth.
Maybe.
He's out there spreading propaganda.
Aren't they all? Well, despite a, quote, full sanitation campaign in Chinatown, end quote, the news began to leak. First in a medical journal, then a local newspaper, then finally national newspapers. The plague was here. One doctor named Rupert Blue was on the case, though. He was boots on the ground in Chinatown, trying desperately to figure out this disease. He noticed that, quote, the link between a widespread die-off of rats and the arrival of plague has been obvious since antiquity, end quote. He's piecing together that the rats are somehow a part of this plague.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Mm-hmm. Well, he didn't know about the fleas actually being the cause of it. He was able to connect the plague with rats. He was fighting an uphill battle, though, as the common belief at the time was that filth, like urine and feces, were the cause of the plague. And this is also where some of that anti-Chinese sentiment comes in. They believed that Chinese people, apparently all of them, were dirty, so they had to be the reason for the plague. They were just a scourge on society, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of Chinese people back in early America were dirty because they weren't given very many opportunities to make some real money. I mean, a lot of them worked on the railroads back in the day and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they were doing hard, dirty work. That doesn't mean that, like, them as a people were dirty, which is really like the common sentiment. If they had been given the basics that the already established white people had, they wouldn't have been dirty.
Shit, white people back in the day were fucking nasty too. Early 1900s. There's plenty of stories. Learn about how the West was founded. American history moving out west, the dirtiest, nastiest motherfuckers came out here to mine.
Well, it sounds like you should do an episode to teach us about what you know about the West.
I don't know about that. I'm not a host. I'm a co-host.
Do it. Well, Blue is trying his best here, though. You know, he was fighting ahead. He organized a major cleanup in 1903 that involved soaking cellars in Chinatown with carbolic acid. He laid down asphalt sidewalks and tore down temporary housing like lean-tos or shacks, as well as trapping and killing all the rats he could. By early 1905, there was more than 100 deaths in San Francisco, but it seemingly just kind of disappeared here. It didn't resurface until May of 1907, when several white people died of it. And that is a specification that needs to be made because it was believed that Asians were the carriers of this disease, and they were the only ones dying from it.
Yeah, and now the Asian community is fine, and only white people are dying.
Yes.
Put on your backpedaling shoes, people.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
Well, it was at this time that Blue decided to up his rat killing, and he was killing around 13,000 rats a week.
He's putting in work.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it.
I do too.
I can't stand rats.
When they become pests, that's the problem.
People think they're smart and cute, and I just think
they
they're
are
horrible.
Smart. They are smart, but in large numbers, they are extremely destructive. And that is where the problem comes in. But
fuck a rat in the 1900s.
Fuck a rat in the 1900s. Fuck a rat in the 1300s. And you know what? Fuck a rat in the 500s. Okay.
Fuck a rat in the 2000s.
All right. Well, this second wave killed around 65 people. Do you notice anything about those numbers? Around 100 the first time, and 65 the second wave.
Yeah, so we're almost cut in half.
Well, the deaths here seem extremely low compared to places in Asia and Europe where millions of people are dying.
Oh, you were comparing it to the earlier outbreak.
Yes, sorry,
numbers.
I should have specified.
They're way lower. A couple hundred versus a couple million, yeah.
Yes. Well, it comes down to the flea. The most common flea found during this was a northern European species, which just so happens to puke up less bacteria from its gut than the Asian flea. So that led to less cases. Because in Hawaii, there were 71 cases and 61 deaths. It was still just as fatal out here, but there were so many less cases. And it's purely because the flea doesn't puke up as much bacteria. Isn't that crazy?
It's pretty wild that just depending on the amount that a flea will regurgitate directly affects how potent the spread of the plague is.
Yep. A wild thing to me. In 1924, the LA area, the Los Angeles area, still in California, was hit by the plague, and this time the public had a new enemy, the Hispanics. Pick a race, everybody. Mexican Americans in LA were quarantined, fired from their jobs, and their houses were burnt down again. Now, this outbreak killed around 40 people and was eventually tied back to just one single rat. Fucking deadly. That was the last outbreak of plague in the US, though the disease is still here.
Prairie dogs have it, don't they?
Yes, sir. Around 7 people a year still contract the plague from rats, squirrels, or any rodents. Here in Colorado, that would be the prairie dog.
They're cute, but they're disease-ridden. Mm-hmm. And they burrow in holes that can break horses' ankles. So yeah. Fuck a prairie dog.
Oh, God. There was a case here just in 2024. And not obviously going to get into specifics here, but a child passed away from it in 2021 in Colorado. Since 2000, only 15 people have died from it, as luckily it is curable through medicine if treated in time.
It's kind of like rabies then.
Well, rabies has a 100% fatality rate, I believe.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't?
No.
Oh, word.
So if you get bit by something and go to the hospital and get a rabies shot right then, before you have symptoms, you're fine.
But it's once symptoms appear that you're done for?
Yeah, if you start getting a little weird, you're probably going down.
Be careful about the wild animals you're interacting with, as you never know if the Black Death will come for you. Dun dun dun! Thoughts, views, and opinions. What'd you think about this one?
Fuck a rodent. That's what I gotta say.
Learn something new at least?
Yep. Everybody get yourself a nice 22 and start plinking some rabies-infested rodents. That's what I say.
We're not talking about rabies.
America.
We're talking about bubonic plague.
Oh, yeah. Plague-infested.
Oh, my gosh.
I got rabies on the brain now.
He doesn't listen to me.
Barely.
Did you learn anything new this week?
Yeah, I had no idea that rabies came to America.
It is not rabies. It is the bubonic plague.
Did that on purpose. But I didn't know that the plague came to America, and the little stint that it had down in Hawaii was kind of a fun little thing. Yeah, I think everybody, when you hear about the plague, you hear about the Black Death over in Europe, and that's pretty much all we know.
Yeah, well, I mean, the plague has on and off throughout time in Asia just cropped up and killed a few thousand people here and there, but I mainly discussed the major outbreaks today. I gotta say, crazy to me that we're catapulting bubonic deaths into a port city. That was a crazy thing to do. I had never heard about it reaching here in America, and of course they were making detention camps. That's surprisingly not surprising.
America, fuck yeah.
No. Oh.
Here to put people in motherfucking camps, yeah, America, fuck yeah.
All right. Well, with that American sentiment, you guys can follow us on Instagram or send us an email, both of which are linked in the show description below.
You can follow the show, share the show, and now go check out our website, and
yay!
You can read an article, listen to the show there, or help support us by buying something in the shop.
All right, well, thanks for hanging out with us again, and we will see you next week for another episode of The Darchives.
I'm not going to say that. I don't want to.
I say what? Bye?
Yeah.
Why?
I want to go.
You don't want to go?
I'm having fun.
Well, we gotta go.
It just felt like it wrapped up so quick.
We didn't really have too much to say. That was crazy. Buck wild. Shit sucked.
All right, I'll see you guys next week.
Goodbye!
Did you have fun with that one?
I taught myself a lot that I did not know.
You taught me a lot that I didn't know.
Well, that's the goal here. That's why we're here.
Yeah, thanks for teaching me about rabies.
I gotta go.